Welcome to downtown Detroit, everybody. I'm Jason Colthorpe for Pancakes and Politics. It's the 20th annual season for the event put on by the Michigan Chronicle. It's an in-depth discussion about all things Detroit and where the city goes from here. We're celebrating 20 years of the Michigan Chronicle's Pancakes and Politics.
We continuously negotiate.
I like the fact that he's committed to our young people.
Have an opportunity to see some real momentum to move forward.
I was knowledgeable of the fact that a letter was going to be sent to the governor.
2 decades of tackling critical issues in business, politics, and the community.
Just like you think of Silicon Valley, technology, and the West Coast, there's only one place to go. You go to Detroit.
You're actually going into communities to get them connected to the resources and the solutions to make different decisions.
Welcome to today's event, produced with our partner WDIV Local 4 and Local 4 Plus. Our CEO Roundtable features Bob Riney, the President and CEO of Henry Ford Health, Tricia Keith, the President and CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, Gary Torgo, the Chairman of the Board of Directors for Huntington National Bank, and Sylvester Hester, the President and CEO of LM Manufacturing. Our moderator today is Dennis Archer Jr., Chairman and CEO of 1642 Ventures. Today's conversation brought to you by PNC Bank, Walker Miller Energy Services, DTE Energy, Rocket Companies, Delta Dental, and Business Leaders for Michigan. Now here's Kathy Ned, President of Real Times Media News Group, to get the show started.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. And welcome to Pancakes and Politics, Season 20. It's been 20 years of discussing the issues that impact our region, and this season 20, is not going to be any different. So I wanted to welcome you all this morning and hope that you enjoy the event today. Before we get started, we're going to speak with one of our sponsors, our presenting sponsor, who is going to bring some remarks. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Mr. Michael Bickers of PNC Bank.
It's so kind of funny because now you see what goes on. We behind the curtain at the DAC. That's what we were doing. Hey, Bob. Good morning, everyone. How are you? Good. Well, I am excited today, not only because we get to launch yet another season, 20th season of Pancakes and Politics. I get to reassure you guys about PNC's commitment to all of you and the companies you work for and the organizations that you're a part of. Because it's hard to see tomorrow today. Am I right? It really is. So our commitment to kids and young people and young adults does not change at PNC, no matter what happens out there. Our commitment to all of our nonprofit partners, some of them are here, some of them are sitting with me, does not change for PNC. Our commitment to the city of Detroit does not change at PNC. How do you know that? Well, next week we get to launch our first new branch in the city of Detroit in a long time on Wyoming, near the Lodge Freeway. That's part of it's called Mary Grove. As you guys know, we have a massive investment in Mary Grove campus, and they're doing awesome things. And not too long ago, a group of graduate students moved on the campus because their job, from University of Michigan, so thank you, U of M, their job is to observe and coach and help develop the teachers at Mary Grove schools. Our commitment to organizations that shelter the homeless does not change. Commitment to organizations that teach kids music does not change. Our partnership with the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, because kids who like music, they need instruments, that does not change. young ladies, young women, and girls who need help. That commitment does not change. How do you know that? I had the honor of co-chairing Alternative for Girls annual gala about a week and a half ago. Just outstanding young ladies that they become. How do you know that? I also had the opportunity to co-chair Judson Center. Who knows Judson Center? That's right. Helping folks that have nowhere else to turn. I had an opportunity to chair their 100-year anniversary back in November. So again, our commitment at PNC is the same as it's always been. I'm confident of that because we didn't need a tragedy to get us in that work. We've been doing this work a long time, and I'm proud of that. So enjoy this year's sessions and enjoy today's session. And again, Hiram, Dennis, thank you so much for the partnership. Take care, guys.
Hello, I'm Rodney President Cole, of the DTE Foundation and Corporate Citizenship for DTE Energy. For nearly 2 decades, the Michigan Chronicle's Pancakes and Politics series has fostered open conversations and friendly debates among community leaders from various sectors, including faith, business, and government, to address significant issues impacting us here in the city of Detroit, but also across the communities where we live and serve throughout Michigan. The discussions, connections, and relationships built during this time are critical to a prosperous future. As one of the most esteemed and highly regarded speaker series in the region, Pancakes and Politics provides us with valuable insights into the needs of our communities, enabling collaboration among all of us in the room to improve the city, the region, and the state. Just like you, many of us at DTE call Detroit home. We live, work, and serve here and in surrounding areas. We're all dedicated to ensuring our city and region flourish. By collaborating as we are during Pancakes and Politics, we can achieve this goal together. DTE is honored to continue our long-standing support of Pancakes and Politics. Thanks for joining us today and for everything you do to make a more prosperous Michigan.
Good morning. Good morning. You guys up this morning? It's a great day. My name is Hiram Jackson. I'm the publisher of the Michigan Chronicle, and welcome to the 20th season of Pancakes and Politics. It's hard to believe, but 21 years ago, the night before the Thanksgiving Day parade, I had a few adult beverages with the late, great Sam Logan. And I had been chasing Sam for months, trying to convince him of a concept that we had come up with called Pancakes and Politics. And Sam was a hardcore old newspaper guy, and at the time, it was difficult to talk to him about having events, doing other things with the company, and we had a great relationship, and I knew when to catch Sam. So I caught him at Mr. Mike's on Woodward. Anybody remember Mr. Mike's? That was his spot. I knew he would be in a great mood. And so after a long night, he said, well, tell me a little bit about it. Who would be your first guest? And I said, L. Brooks Patterson and Kwame Kilpatrick. And he said, hey, I'm interested, talk more. He said, where would you have it? And I said, at the Detroit Athletic Club. And he said, why? And I just used that old saying, why did Jesse James rob banks? Because that's where the money is, right? So 20 years later, here we are. We've had 77 of these forums, and all of them have been sold out. Thanks to you. Give yourselves a round of applause. It works. It works because all of us in this room have bought into the concept that as we consider big public policy issues, every voice should be heard, and every community should have a seat at the table. It's really important to have folks of different ages, races, religions, geographic locations come together and meet powerful people doing powerful things. And that's what today will be, powerful people talking about powerful things. But I couldn't have done this, we couldn't have done this at the Michigan Chronicle without our partners, all of our sponsors. Many of you were with us 20 years ago. I especially want to thank our platinum partners, Delta Dental, Walker Miller Energy Services, Rocket Companies, and DTE, our Overdrive sponsor, Business Leaders for Michigan, and especially our presenting sponsor, PNC Bank. Give them a round of applause, please. Your investment in our company and our event shows that you believe the concept, you believe in it. And so today, we have a great panel. Collectively, these executives employ over 61,000 employees, doing well over $57 billion in revenue. And so sit back and enjoy the conversation. But first, I want you to enjoy a Pancakes and Politics moment from 17 years ago.
This is not a black-white conversation anymore. This is about an internationally competitive region.
We're all tied together, and to compete with each other makes no sense. But we have to compete with a lot of other countries, and this is where we have to work together.
But you see how issues, whether they're national, international, or local, they land on whites different than they land on blacks. And we emotionally respond to them differently. For Jeremiah Wright to even be compared to the grand dragon. No, listen. Well, listen. Let me finish, because it's not at you. It's not at you.
No, but I was biased.
It's just so far beyond anything that any African American who is a church-going person who grew up and watched this, they could even ever, because they see him as a person who's totally not like that.
We're the most diverse county in the state of Michigan, if not in the Midwest. If you locate your company here, we look like the rest of the world. And it's time that we start using our diversity as a selling point.
Well, let me show you race relations. How many people don't like Osama bin Laden? Black, white, Arab, we all together on that.
But you wouldn't give him a black one.
Oh my God!
You what now?
Well, that's right. Okay, Osama bin Laden brought us back together. Here we go.
And I'll tell you what, it was embarrassing in the sense that I'm looking at these chandeliers here. If you go into any of the rooms at Cobo Hall, those chandeliers look like they're from the 1950s. They look like my mom put them up over there. And we're talking about a regional asset that if we're going to wake up one day and what we're going to say is, geez, we've lost the auto show. It's gone to LA, it's gone to Chicago, and then suddenly we say, well, what happened? How do we get it back? What we lack many times in this region is a sense of urgency. We think that things are just going to get done.
And yet, in the final analysis, the plan Bob comes up with says Wayne gets a vote, McComb gets a vote, I get a vote, the governor gets a vote, and the city gets 3. Wait a minute. You know, that is not the kind of authority that I want to put my county into. We've got 50 issues like that. Well, we can negotiate all day, but I'll tell you right now, we're not going to sign on to a bad deal.
Thank you. I want to thank the Michigan Chronicle staff. I really want to thank our partners at WDIV. This is being live streamed on Local 4+. And I want to bring up our host, Mr. Dennis Archer Jr., Chairman and CEO of 1649 Ventures. Enjoy.
Sometimes I think Hiram does things on purpose. It's 1642 Ventures. Just as an FYI, Mr. Jackson. And let me also say, Hiram and I banter quite often, when we're up here. And his staff sent a video last night that I think was streaming as you all were coming in, and it had me being interviewed at an early Pancakes and Politics. And I called him, I was like, why would you use this video? He says, it's too late. I'm about 30 pounds heavier. And it was just a note to self. I called Angie and said, make sure we go to the gym so I can keep this 30 pounds off. But thank you all for being here. Thank you to those who are live streaming, including my parents down in Sarasota. Before we get started and I bring our guests up, I also would like to acknowledge Hiram's incredible staff. Hiram talked about his sponsors and he talked about the phenomenal partnership we have with WDIV, Bob Ellis and his team. But Hiram has developed an amazing team at Real Times Media in the Michigan Chronicle. And when you go over there, it's a room full of, 2 floors full of young, dynamic, driven black people who put all this product on the street. So you all should give yourselves a round of applause for having such an amazing team. And if there's any elected officials in the house, if you could stand and be acknowledged, please, if anyone's here. Thank you for being here. Good morning. And I'm going to bring the guests up, but there are white index cards on your tables. And so this year what we're going to do is fill out your name and your table number on those index cards, and people will be around to collect them, and then we will ask the questions on the stage here and provide your name and table number when we do so. Having said that, let me please bring up our guests. First, Robert Riney, President and CEO of Henry Ford Health. Tricia Keith, President and CEO, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. Gary Torgo, Chairman of the Board of Directors, the Huntington National Bank. And my brother and dear friend, Sylvester Hester, President and CEO, LM Manufacturing. And so we, as you know, send often our reporters out into the streets to my guests and the audience to gauge interest and questions so that we can bring the reality of what people are thinking in the streets and in the neighborhoods to this room and to this stage. And one of the questions that we went out to the streets with this time was healthcare, and I think we're going to tee up the video and take a look at that, and then that'll spark some of our discussion.
If you had the opportunity to have a conversation with the CEO of a healthcare facility, a major health organization in the city, what would you talk to them about?
I would talk to them about the co-pays, the high rates that what we're paying for medical right now, you know, because it's just crazy. You know, you got so many people here in the city without insurance, can't even go to the dentist, you know, can't even go to the doctor, and they're being denied because they don't have no insurance. So yeah, I would have some things I would like to talk to them about, you know, because I mean, I have a daughter that's 12, so I have to think about her.
There are a couple of us that are in healthcare, and there's a few of us that obviously have a number of employees, and healthcare is a significant expense. Tricia, you and I got together a month or so ago, and we were talking about how things have changed just in your industry and how heightened and sensitive people are around the issue of the cost of healthcare. You know, typically you would hear about employers, you know, complaining about the rising cost of healthcare, and then we ultimately have to pass some of that on to our employees. And with the incident that happened at the board meeting in New York, I think that just took the conversation to another level, unfortunately. Talk about, you know, the realities of your business. And then, Bob, I'm obviously going to go to you next to talk about, because you're the one that administers the healthcare, but in terms of insuring it. And so for those that don't know, Tricia has a $41 billion company that insures 5 million people. And it is run by this young woman. So it's phenomenal. Congratulations on your recent appointment.
Well, thank you, Dennis. And frankly, thanks for starting this important conversation about healthcare and accessibility and affordability. It's something at Blue Cross that we're laser focused on. I'm really lucky to be joined here by a customer, by a partner provider, and by a board member. Just to talk about the depth and breadth of Blue Cross and what we try to do here in Michigan. And One of the things that drives us forward is this idea at Blue Cross of being integral to our members' health. And when we think about integral, we think about being there for whole person health, not just when people are sick, but also in well care and experience in behavioral health. We think about security and accessibility. And so security, not in the sense you're talking about relative to the Brian Thompson assassination, but security in terms of having that card, having the access, and also affordability, and then around that customer experience. And all of those things really get to the point where you're asking around customer sentiment and what happened with the Brian Thompson assassination with United. Now, the truth is we aren't perceived based on data the same way that United is, but that's not good enough for us, and our brand recognizes that. But what we're working on very closely is sifting through what we hear from people and what they need to be there and to be integral, and make sure that we understand what people are telling us about that customer experience, about when we're working toward affordability, to make sure that what is being requested for the members is the correct treatment. And we're doing that through partnerships with the providers to make sure we have shared goals and outcomes to make sure that that experience works. And so people understand where it is in the process to move forward to get the treatment that they need. And so thinking about how all that system works together is something that we're spending a lot of time on, and something Bob and I are spending a lot of time on as well.
Bob, talk to us about, we hear a lot of the stories about, particularly in urban areas, about the number of uninsured that come into your doors and your fiduciary responsibility to at least welcome and treat everyone. How does that play a role in you managing, a P&L responsibly, but also delivering first-class customer service to Detroiters and the surrounding communities?
Well, first of all, good morning, everybody. It's great to be together. And, I think about this from several levels. First of all, we still have uninsured care that is in excess of $500 million a year. So it's a big, big impact on our organization. We do what other organizations do, is you try and diversify your portfolio so you can make sure you're living up to your mission, which is high quality care for everybody. That's a real challenge. I think there's a number of steps that we have to take. First and foremost, we have to make sure that the Affordable Care Act, or some version of it, stays intact, because we made great strides in reducing the uninsured population. And if we go back to greater uninsured, it's not just that the costs will go up, but the quality will go down, because the ER then becomes their primary care physician. Mm-hmm. And that is not a good way to get care. I think Trish and I would agree that one of the solutions to controlling costs, and costs are a big issue. I've been in healthcare a long time, and the letters I get have changed from concerns about service or concerns about access to concerns about cost. And so, it's a very real issue. But I think one of the ways to get at it is to organize care, and organize care in a proactive, not a reactive way. We still have both a cultural mindset as well as a model that says, when you get to an acute care of disease, come in and we'll take care of you. Real value-based care, we're going to organize and have a care team that's working with you from your early stages on, focusing on health, focusing on wellness, so that you can stay out of the hospital, stay out of nursing homes as you age and all that, because that's where the real costs come into play.
Right. So still, and Gary, from employers who have thousands of employees, both of you in multiple states, multiple facilities. Sylvester, starting with you, how do you manage the healthcare piece while trying to attract top-tier talents as well, providing good healthcare, but doing it responsibly in terms of your P&L?
Well, healthcare is very important to our organization, because, again, the employees that we employ actually are focused in on developing and delivering world-class products and services to our customers. So again, their wellness is something that we take of significant importance. Cost of healthcare, access to healthcare, is something that is a competitive advantage to us. I mean, we focus in on providing an environment where our employees, they know they can come to the company through our focus groups, and we can get information back from them on the challenges that they're dealing with. In particular right now, wellness, I think they talked about wellness here. I see it every day. I have thousands of employees that were coming in. I see the challenges at home that they bring and they wear on their shoulders, right? And having access to healthcare and counseling services, because that's something that's still taboo, in our community, as you know. And right now, there's not enough counselors. I mean, we're having trouble getting qualified counselors. Matter of fact, to the point where my wife went back, got her master's in clinical mental health. She's doing a practicum right now, so we can have access to it. So from a competitive advantage standpoint, it's something that, we have to identify the right employee, then we have to onboard them, train them, then we have to retain them. So as part of a recruitment tool, first is cost, because again, with the escalating cost of healthcare, we do have to pass, at my stage anyway, some of that portion, that cost on to the employees. We're trying to reduce that, but again, hopefully some of the ideas that we're talking about here today will help bring that cost down. And then also increase the number of services that our people really, really need. So again, I'll just speak for them, on behalf of them. Getting more counselors, dealing with the mental health is something that's very important today.
Gary?
So first, Denny, thanks for having me, and Hiram, thanks for what you do here. I'm looking around this room and I see a room filled with heroes who are doing tremendous things for Detroit. I haven't been here for 21 years, and I guess I'm glad, because I don't want to be on that video, but I really appreciate it. And also, Trish, I'm proud to say I voted for you, and you're doing a great job.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
And I think if you look at healthcare and you look at our community and you focus on what we have, you look at people like Bob and Trish and the people that are leading the healthcare industry of our state, we're really fortunate. And America's a great country, and we've got the best healthcare system in the world, on the planet. And in order to we have 20,000 colleagues in Huntington. Healthcare is right up there as amongst the most important things for our colleagues, and we need to produce the best possible healthcare. We want to keep our team healthy. We want to keep our community healthy. So I think as we look at what's happening in America today, we all need to encourage the leadership of our city, our state, and our country to make sure that we give all the tools that are necessary to the healthcare leadership, to our great hospitals, our great insurers, to make sure that our colleagues, our communities, our customers are taken care of. And this subject is maybe more important than anything we're dealing with today in America. So we're very fortunate here. We're fortunate with the health care that we have. And it's our job to speak to our political leadership to give them the tools to be able to produce the right health care for our colleagues and our communities.
Gary, I want to stick with you for a second. We talked a month or two ago, and if you recall, one part of our conversation was us chatting about 2024 really being a year of choices. A lot of significant people made significant choices that are going to affect our community for some time. Our mayor made a choice to not run for office, which has sparked a very competitive election for his seat. You decided and made a choice to continue on as chairman of the board of your bank. Talk about, and then I'm going to ask each of you about a choice that you made in 2024, a single choice that's going to affect your businesses going forward for the near and longer term. But talk about, with you, Gary, why you decided to stay on and what you hope to accomplish in that seat in this next term.
So when TCF merged with Huntington 3.5 years ago, I signed a 3-year contract and wasn't sure what the future would bring. And I've just signed a very long-term contract with Huntington because I see the opportunity to do really great things. Our own company is doing tremendous things in Detroit. We're a significant player. We did a $40 billion community plan at the time we did the merger, and we are active in so many great things with so many partners around the room. And when you think about 2024 and the choices that we made a big choice in Washington, and we're making big choices in our government going forward. I think it's really important to remember that America is bigger than any one person that we elect to any office. And we have to be very confident in that, and we have to look back at America and we have to look forward. We're about to choose a new mayor, and there's a couple of candidates I see in the room today. We're choosing a new mayor, and Mike Duggan has done a terrific job. It's 3 great terms with taking us out of bankruptcy, and nobody can argue that he did a spectacular job. But Detroit is bigger than one person, and whoever the city of Detroit elects, we're going to stand behind that person. We are going to rally, and we're going to make sure that that person has all the tools to continue the great work that Mike Duggan did. You said your dad's on live stream this morning. Hello, Dad. How you doing? Dennis Archer was a spectacular mayor. He did a marvelous job. And Detroit has always managed to find people who can stand up and do the right things. I know there's a lot of consternation about which side you voted for in Washington, but terms end, people come, people go, and it doesn't matter really what side of the aisle you're on. You have to be confident that the country, the people, the communities, heaven, everybody is watching over this country because it's the most giving, charitable, beautiful place to live. We all are so fortunate to be here, and we have to protect everybody that's around us in healthcare and financial services and construction and all the things that we're doing to rally together to do the right things. We have fantastic foundations in this community. We have great organizations, great charities. So whatever decision you made in 2024, going into 25, 26, 27, we're going to do better and better because we're doing it as a unified community. We got to continue to push civility. We got to get along with each other. We got to care for each other. I sit through these board meetings at Blue Cross. All they talk about is how can we give better care to people? How can we take care of people? I listen to Bob Riney, Henry Ford, and the work that he is doing. They are so committed. There is nobody that walks through that door that doesn't feel like they could be taken care of, whether they could pay for it or not. So that's our challenge and that's our opportunity, and we are going to continue to make those good choices. We're going to elect a great mayor, we're going to elect a great governor, and we're going to support those people to support us going forward.
Gary, you do know that there's an open Senate seat that's coming available. You sound like you're running for office.
I am so happy not to be running for Senate.
Sil, talk about an important choice you had to make in your business last year and how it's going to affect the near and short term of your business.
Well, I think the important choice that I made, along with my wife of 34 years, is that we decided that, retiring early is something that we're not going to do. She decided that she's going to go back and get her master's over 3 years in clinical mental health because of the need that's there. I've aligned my advocation with my vocation, which is to basically do all I can and investigate and turn over every rock in workforce development. I believe we're at an inflection point here with our workforce. I think with the technology burrowing down on us, that AI and automation is going to create just as many jobs as they eliminate. However, the jobs that they create actually will exacerbate the skills gap that we currently have already. So the question at hand is, what can we do as employers today, right now today, that will assure our employees the best opportunity to, live out their best lives as technology continues to do that. So some of the things that we've done and the impact that it has is that we've created at our company what we call the enhanced employee experience. I mean, we do it with cars all the time. We want to get the voice of the customer. So we're focusing in on sitting down in focus groups and talking to our employees and understanding what their challenges are and what they're dealing with day in and day out. And we found out that the first thing is to address their toolkit, if you will, to get them in a growth mindset from a fixed mindset. So we initiated numerous campaigns, we call them. One is Love to Learn, because we determined through studies that those that have a natural curiosity will actually fare better when it's time to upskill and reskill. And let's be very clear, in this region, upskilling and reskilling should be primary importance to us. We give them a financial literacy toolkit, so credit repair, budgeting, savings, but more importantly, net worth analysis. and goal setting, because again, without having the appropriate network, you have an inability to insulate yourself against the financial shock that happens. And then also we find out that at work is probably the best opportunity as we have care and custody with them, is to those that want to go back and get a higher degree of attainment, let's create opportunities at work, because other than sleep, 8-10 hours a day, you're at work. So we're focusing on all those types of things to make sure that our employees are ready and prepared and know that the company is behind them pushing. Now, whether they stay with us or not, doesn't really matter. We're more concerned with their ultimate outcome.
Tricia, a 2024 choice. Thanks, Phil. A 2024 choice and how it's going to affect the business going forward.
Yeah, well, obviously I had to decide whether after 18 years in the company, I wanted to try to take over for Dan Lepp as he sought retirement and the storied history that he had there. And obviously I decided to do that, and I thank the board for the vote in that. But it was really about what and where we were at for healthcare in leaving in that role. And one of the things, we're really proud of our 86-year history here in the city of Detroit and in the state of Michigan. And if I ask everybody to raise their hand, I would guess over half of you would raise your hand if I ask you if you had a Blue Cross card covering you. And so thank you for that. I hope you have trust and confidence in that card. But part of the reason that I felt positive about being able to do this, in addition to that history, is that the team that we that works for you every day. I have members of the team here, and they come to work to fulfill that mission around access, quality, cost. But what concerns me greatly with our industry in general, and it's not a Blue Cross phenomenon, but we have an affordability crisis in healthcare, and I'm really worried about that. And when you think of the chunks that are part of the equation that make up healthcare, and you think about technology, when you think of healthcare costs, when you think of pharmaceutical and drugs and the unregulated nature of that, when you think of inflation, when you think of all those things add up on the one side of the equal sign to affordability and us and our role in the system. And if you saw the news, which I don't know how you could miss it, you saw that at the end of last year, Blue Cross lost over $1 billion last year, and that's not at a comfortable place for us to be. But we did it because we were covering people in the needs that they had. We spent $3 billion more covering healthcare costs that you all had last year than we did the year prior. And so in launching, we're looking at every section of the healthcare ecosystem and how we all need to work together on that, and that includes looking internally. 7 cents of every dollar that you spend is an administrative cost at our company. And we've launched a program to take $600 million out of that over the next 3 years. That's going to be hard work, but our employees are committed to that, always with the idea of how do we take care of people and how do we cover them. But work going forward to address the affordability crisis that we have is what we're going to be relentlessly focused on, and it's why I chose to seek to be CEO.
Fantastic. Bob, a choice? And
well, 2024 was a very unique year for Henry Ford Health, so I will mention a couple things, but I'll be brief. The first thing that we did is welcome 17,000 new employees into Henry Ford Health by the Ascension hospitals and medical centers in Southeast Michigan becoming Henry Ford. And that has been a wonderful, wonderful addition of some incredible people. And it's allowed us to have a network that really, for Southeast Michigan, we are now 5 miles within anyone's home. We have 550 sites of care under Henry Ford Health and 51,000 employees. So that was number one. Number two, we have a great relationship with our partners at Blue Cross, but Henry Ford Health also owns an insurance company, Health Alliance Plan, which is a wonderful insurance company. And we made a commitment in 2024 back to value-based care that we're going to create a network that will help create affordability if you as a consumer partner with us on organizing your care in a proactive way. And I think that's going to continue to drive value. We have some of the similar products and stuff with Blue Cross and others. And the third thing that we did is we made a commitment for the next 100 years to the city of Detroit with a $3.2 billion development to reimagine and redevelop the entire Henry Ford Hospital campus with partners, Michigan State University, the Dan Gilbert Family Foundation, the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, Michigan State University. We don't believe that you should do things like that alone, and you need partners for a lot of reasons. But it's going to provide something that's going to have economic development spin-off for our city. There is no great city in this country that doesn't have a world-class medical center campus. You can name any world-class city, and at the centerpiece is a campus that's designed for innovation, breakthroughs, et cetera. We have the clinical talent and the research talent, but now we're going to have the environment and the space, and that's going to put Detroit on another level of an already ascending map.
Thank you, Bob. You know, when I graduated from law school, I went to go work for Charles Allen. I think a couple of you know Charles. And he had a company called Graymark Realty Advisors, and he and his partner, Hansel Minyard, espoused from the very beginning doing well while doing good. And they were did very well entrepreneurially, but were very involved in the community. And one of the cornerstones, I think, to the success that the city of Detroit has had and the momentum that we have had over the past several years has been because business and elected leadership and philanthropy have all worked together. All of you all have done very well professionally, and all of you are very involved in the community. Sylvester, we learned at the knee of Dr. Bill Picard, you particularly, and he was the consummate entrepreneur and quiet philanthropist. Talk about the importance for you to be involved in the community and to give back.
Well, first of all, Dennis, thank you for bringing up our wonderful friend and our mentor, and we do miss him, right? But his legacy and what he taught us stays with us. Again, you know, coming from a mentor relationship, how can I not be willing to mentor myself? And his total focus was people. He would say all the time, Sylvester, in entrepreneurship, you manage things, but you lead people. People are truly the center of everything that you do. And people, they live, they work, and they play. And he would constantly say, but Sylvester, let's be very clear. Where they work determines where they live and how they play. So again, if we get the work part right, right, then we're able to then also help allow them to achieve the desired life and dreams for them and their families. But from a community activity standpoint, the one thing that's very important to me, and I have the pen here, is DPSCD. So we actually have an MOU with DPSCD. Literally, me and my team, we have Manufacturing Day every year where literally hundreds of kids actually come into our facility so they can see exactly what and how we perform our service and craft here for that wonderful automotive industry. Then we go back out in a 5-step program back into that school, not only with myself, but also with members of my salary staff and my hourly staff. And then we focus in on those students that have been deemed that require credit recovery, so they're not on track for graduation, and we focus in on them. We invite them back into our facility to do a job shadow based on what particular career aspirations they wanted to see, accounting, HR, logistics, and then after that, third step is that we invite them for a project of value and then an internship, and then we let them know that, listen, if you go ahead and graduate, you know, you come back in and we'll give you a job, and we've hired over 14, 15 every year to come back in. So that's just one of the things that we do that's very exciting out in the community, and I think having an impact as well.
Tricia, how do you, thanks, Sylvester. You're within year one of the role. You have been with the company extremely busy for years, but you have a lot of drag on your time, I'm sure, with a request from people asking you to be involved. How do you pick and choose and navigate balancing your leadership role with being involved in the community?
I think it's about impact. And I think when you evaluate, you need to put where your energy and your emotion and your passion lies. And to your point, there are so many things in so many ways that you could spend your time. And so where is it, when you evaluate it, that it's going to get you up in the morning, that's going to give you energy and be able to do that? I would tell you, most of us on this panel last night were together until 8:30 last night at a meeting where we were doing community-based things. And we made a joke that we could just start the panel right there if we wanted to do an all-nighter and do that. But
as long as Bob was bringing espresso.
That's true. But
My all-nighter days are over, just for the record.
But what we find also, though, is that we can get energy from each other in doing that and supporting. And it might be something that Bob or Gary are passionate about. It might be something that Sylvester's passionate about. And we can trade off on that, too. And so I think it's important that we all support each other as leaders as we do that, but then find our own personal passions and drive and lead toward that.
Gary, I mean, you are, probably as an entrepreneur, with the exception or maybe equal to Dr. Picard, have been since Sterling Group days, when I used to come to your office for mentorship in my 20s, have always been involved in the community, in the Detroit community specifically. Talk about why that is so important to you personally.
So the health of the community really resides in the things that we do for each other. We're with Michigan Chronicle. Hiram and I had the privilege of starting a student scholarship program 10 years ago called the SWAG Awards, Students Wired for Achievement and Greatness.
I was about to say, I'm not sure that swag was a term I thought you would normally use, but that was
learning it. I've been learning it. I'm learning it from you, Dennis. So we've given millions of dollars in student scholarships, and really the core of the whole community really starts with the kinds of things we do for the students and the children. As Sil said, we have the opportunity to really lean in as a company. We're a company that is successful and profitable, and we're taking a lot of those profits with the help of our investors and pouring them to the communities that we live in. We're operating in 17 states, and in every community we're a leading light, because we know that when you take care of your community, it lifts up your companies. And they say that, if you do good things in the community, it benefits the economics. It's 100% true. The more you do for the community, the more successful you are. We're living in a city that needs to lift up people. The down payment assistance program is a perfect example. The city of Detroit, along with corporate Detroit, has poured a lot of money into giving people home ownership. We saw from the book Poverty by America that if we pour significant money into places where people can lift themselves up, it will lift your community up. As a bank, banks drive America. Banks provide small business assistance. They provide car loans and house loans and mortgages. We're the largest SBA lender in the United States of America, headquartered right here in Detroit, Michigan, because we understand that small business runs our country, and we're investing very heavily in it. So with all the people on this panel, everybody that's sitting here, and so many people in the audience, I see Angelique from one of the most marvelous foundations that we have, the Skillman Foundation. We're investing together hand by hand, partner by partner, and it makes a huge difference in the community. And we got to start with the schools. We got to start with our Detroit public schools. If the Detroit public schools grow and are successful and kids do well in school, they're going to be our future. They're going to be the people that are going to be running our companies. We're all very local. And just as Charles Allen taught you and his team and the people around you that have made you what you are today, it's lifting up our young people and turning them into the leaders of the next generation.
Thank you, Gary. Bob, you $3.2 billion, significantly expanding the campus. I know firsthand from chatting with you and Jerry and other people on your team that you are painstakingly making sure that you are including Detroiters and all the opportunities, and you're taking into consideration the needs and wants of the neighboring neighborhoods. Talk about how you have to expand to create this campus that you're interested in providing the city of Detroit, but how you do so with the needs of the community, not the healthcare needs, but the other needs of the community in which you operate.
It's really important to me for a variety of reasons. Many of you may not know that we went through the community benefits process, not because we were required to do so for our project, but because we wanted the discipline and the learnings around the tenets of that process. And it allowed us to go into neighborhoods and have hundreds of kind of living room meetings to find out what was really important to them. And, you know, the obvious is great healthcare, private rooms, you know, all of that stuff. But once you get beyond it, it was really about things that elevate the health of a community beyond physical health. It was mental health infrastructure, it was economic health, it was jobs, it was access to healthy foods, all those things that you know are required if you're really going to move the needle. And so with our partners, we were able to not only commit to jobs for Detroiters, but preparation of Detroiters for jobs, and not jobs that are entry level and then they have a wall, jobs that have entry level and a path to continue to advance, which is quite frankly what I did in my own career. And so it's very personal to me. And, you know, Michigan State, you know, stood up and said to the neighborhood, we're going to give full ride scholarships to the university for young people within this empowerment area. And there was just a whole lot that just sort of took a life of its own. And as a result, I think that we are living the words that health is much more than just treating someone with a disease in the best way, but it's really about a holistic approach. And what's interesting about it is it energizes our culture, because people in healthcare really want to, and they're attracted to organizations that are really staying true to their mission and really making an impact, to use the word that Tricia did. And then on a personal level, I'll just say that, you know, I write philanthropic checks like the individuals on this do, and I am on a lot of boards and I give my all to the boards, but I also make sure that there's direct line of sight. And so while I'm proud of everything I'm doing, I'm actually more proud that my wife goes out and works hours and hours with Greening of Detroit in the soil with the high school students, you know, teaching them about urban agriculture. And I'm really proud that when I got home on election day at like 9 at night and I asked her what her day was, she had on her own driven all over and picked up single moms that didn't have a way to get to vote to be able to vote. And I'm like, you know, those are the heroes. I mean, they're the ones that are really doing the hard work.
Team, do we have some questions from the audience?
We do. Over here to your left, guys. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
From Channel 4. We did have a quick one that came in for Gary. Have you considered a run for drain commissioner? It's not a real question, Gary. But it is the most powerful position in government. I think we know that. No, the first question's from Tara Aldea from Mercantile Bank.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. Gary, always great to see you. Dennis, you as well. My question is, the children of Detroit and Michigan are our greatest natural resource, yet Michigan ranks 41st in the country for education. 75% of 8th graders scored below proficient in math. 20% of Michigan high schoolers don't graduate on time, and absenteeism is a major problem. What are you, of the business leaders of Detroit, doing now to help this education epidemic that seems to be happening within our city? How can you help grow and shape the future of Detroit, which is our children? I don't think the Industrial Revolution is going to happen again anytime soon here in Detroit.
So I have the privilege of chairing Business Leaders in Michigan today. Jeff Donofrio, our CEO, is in the audience. And Business Leaders in Michigan, which is really a concentration of the leadership, the CEOs and chairpeople of the major companies of Detroit, that's the number one issue that's at the table. And you're 100% right. Those statistics are embarrassing for us, and they are not right. And so as a community, and it really starts with the business leaders who have to pound on the table to our politicians, to our educators, to our leaders, that there is no more critical investment than putting investment into our children. That includes the way we spend our money at government. That includes giving the authority to government officials who have to watch over those dollars to make sure that they're put into the right places. In order for us to grow as a state, we have to invest in the most critical area, which is the children of our community. And so we need to make sure that our teachers are taken care of, that they are given the tools that they need, that our buildings and our facilities are up to the standard, that children have to go to school. We have to encourage our families to do what they need to do. We have to do after-school programming. We have to make sure that children are engaged full-time in the process of education. We got to give them the chance to go to college, and if it means that we have to pay for it, we need to do it. And if we do those things, if we invest, the state will do well. At 41st, we're never going to be able to say we're a top 10 state. In order to be a top 10 state, it's not big buildings and it's not big plants and it's not big downtowns. It's the education of our children, and they are the talent for our future, and it's our responsibility to invest in them. So all of us, all the people that are on this panel, all the people that lead big companies, they have to spend more and more time educating their folks, educating and putting dollars into the places where we can help our children. So I appreciate the question, and it is up to us, and we've got to push harder and harder to get ourselves into a place where we look like we are really doing what we say we're doing.
That's right. Dennis?
Phil?
Yeah, I agree with Gary. I think it's one of the most important things that we can do to help address our K-12 educational system. But the answer is time on task. I mean, I'm leaving here today and going to Bright Health today to talk to students. Again, as I shared with you earlier, the MOU with DPSCD got me and my team into the schools. So some of the things that, were, fresh eyes approaches. We have some wonderful educators that truly care, and they're absolutely doing their best to address the issues that we have. So we must continue to encourage our legislatures, policy leaders, our business communities, and philanthropic organizations, organizations like the Business Leaders of Michigan under Gary's leadership, which I just became a member of as well, and looking forward to put my hand to work there as well. The students, they are as bright and capable as any out there. It's the amount of time that we put into them. I guess the question that I put out to the audience is, where do you give of your time, your talent, and your treasure? And if it's not in a K-12 organization, please join Gary and I and all the other members of this panel. I invite you into the schools. I invite you to talk with the teachers. I invite you to talk to the individual students and see how bright and capable they are, and then start mentoring them. And we should do it at scale. I know it's happening here and there, but to really make a difference, looking in this room, 80% of us professionals should be and have adopt one of these schools in here and start driving the needle forward.
Thank you. Before we take another question from the field, good morning, Reverend Anthony. I didn't get a chance to say hello earlier.
Yeah, you better get that in there, Dennis. David Johnson right here at table 9. Sir, do you mind standing up, showing everybody your great suit? Thank you.
Thank you. My question is, do you have concerns with the Trump administration in its DOGE efforts to undo Medicare and RFK Jr.'s efforts in HHS relative to immunization, vaccination, and pandemics? And what should we do as an informed electorate?
So I guess we'll go Tricia and then Bob, maybe.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that. I think all of us need to be concerned always with what all of our leaders, as Gary was talking about, and being engaged in Washington and Lansing and the city are doing. And in this case, absolutely we're concerned with what is happening in Washington. And I would call out 3 places that we think about that. In taking care of our seniors in Medicare Advantage and what will happen with that. I think that's really important. We have 770,000 people in Michigan who are on Medicare Advantage. And so thinking about what's happened over the last several years in that program and what could happen in the future, I think we've seen tumult in the last cycle with that. And I think that is going to continue over the years. The second is in Medicaid, particularly. And so the question that we just heard about children's health and everything that goes into raising healthy children. Health is just, if you don't have health, you don't have anything. And so thinking about how that intersects with education so that people can focus on learning and making sure that the Medicaid program is kept whole as we move forward. And then, we should be really proud in the state and in the country around the Affordable Care Act and what's happened with individual coverage. At the end of this year, the subsidies that are providing coverage for so many people in the individual market are going to expire, period. So what will happen? Will those be extended? Likely not. And so what happens there? And so how can we make sure that we either have a strong Medicaid system to pick those people up, or we're able to extend those tax credits? So those things are all really important things that we're watching in terms of providing coverage for that. And so we need to be educated on what and how that means, because frankly, as Bob was saying, whether it's the uninsured that they're taking care of, or whether we feel that in as employers, you're paying for that in your commercial rates because of the economics of the health systems, and they need more in commercial rates to make up for the uninsured. And so the businesses end up paying for that when it's uninsured. And so understanding the economics of how all that cycle comes together is really important to be able to lobby to effectively communicate the impact of some of those cuts.
Bob, you want to add?
Yeah, I could go on and on about this topic, but what I would start is saying that, as a leader, if I solve a problem by creating a bigger problem, I haven't solved a problem in any way, shape, or form. And I think we have to hold all elected officials to making sure that if they are going after one issue, they understand the unintended consequences and the total cost, so that there's a holistic solution, because that's what you want. And so I think, DOGE, I personally have led many efficiency reviews in organizations. They're healthy to do, but the how you do them becomes very important if you want buy-in and if you want sustainability. And then as it relates to RFK, I would say that, I certainly think that we should be letting the clinical and scientific experts guide us on vaccines. Having said that, we shouldn't dismiss his calling out that if we're really going to elevate health, the food industry has to partner in a different way as well. So, I've really learned with a lot of elected officials, there's a tendency, if you really don't like something, to dismiss all. And I think we've got to be more thoughtful and say, okay, this may be something that I just think is not making sense, but I'm not going to dismiss this idea because, you know what, there's some interesting merit to it.
Thank you. Jason, before we come back to you for the last question that we can close out on, I have a quick question for each of you here, and I'm looking at Santil here in the front as well, and maybe think about it and some of the discussions that we've been having. Mayor Duggan has been in office for 12 years. We have seen an incredible phase of Detroit's evolution under his leadership. And so there's a tremendous opportunity for us to continue that momentum and maybe even take it further and even do better. So I would ask each of you just to name 2 or 3 characteristics in brief that you think the next mayor should have, because going back to Coleman Young, every mayor that's come into office, there's timing associated with that person being elected, and it's not the same characteristics that are needed during each election cycle. So in this upcoming cycle, for this next candidate to be elected in November, starting with you, Bob, give 2 or 3 characteristics you think are important for that leader.
They need to have a both-and mentality versus an either-or. And what I mean by that is conversations that it's either appeasing the business community or appeasing the community at large is a zero-sum game. A both-and is the attributes that I think we need to have, because it's going to take a both-and to elevate the city. I think inspiration and optimism. Behavior is contagious, and a lot of Detroit's momentum you can trace back to policies and, post-bankruptcy, but it's also because collectively people started believing that we were capable of going to a next level. So I think optimism and inspiration. And then third, the ability to bring great talent to your team around you.
Thank you. Tricia?
I really wanted you to ask me that first. I was using different words, but I think it's the exact same sentiment that Bob shared. The first word that popped into my mind was collaboration. And so how we bring people together to do great things, I think, is absolutely key. Gary said it before, like, we can't do things alone. The partnerships that Bob referenced as he's been building Henry Ford out with Michigan State and others, those things and bringing people together to collaborate, I think, is absolutely key. And then vision. People want to follow people, and that leads on optimism that Bob talked about as well. People are electing people who they want to follow. And so I'm making sure that you agree with that which you follow, but set the vision and bring people along.
Thank you. Gary?
I think one key quality is humility. We need somebody who can be a leader of the city of Detroit, but be humble about it and recognize that it takes everybody in order to be successful. It is somebody that can inspire, can lead the younger generation through the next 10 years of our community. It's somebody that is willing to applaud the things that have happened and to continue to fix the things that we need to be fixed. And it's somebody who is willing to join hands with a very diverse community and a very diverse state and say, we need all the help. We need help from Washington. We need help from Lansing. And we want to make Detroit a top 10 city, and it can be, and we're on our way to it. And the candidates that are running, if you look at the candidates, we've got a good selection of people, and we're going to embrace whoever ends up at the top seed, and we're going to have to do it together, and we're going to have to do it as a community.
Sylvester?
Two things for me, empathy and work ethic. Again, we have to address the barriers to sustainable employment for our citizenry. Transportation, childcare, housing. So we have to understand, we have to meet them where they are, right? I see it all the time, employees that come in have tapped out of their attendance policy, and yet, the public transportation just wasn't there because we mirror our automotive schedule so they can get to work, but the bus then has to shut down at night. And so me and my team, we rode all 31 buses. We rode them just to see what they're experiencing, what they're dealing with. So again, I would invite the next mayor, have empathy for that, and then most importantly, come in and put their hand to doing the work, getting out there and seeing it from the worker's perspective. That's something that's very important to me.
Thank you. Unfortunately, it's 8:58, time flies. Jason, thank you for your assistance on the floor. And for those that are tuning in via the live stream, please stay on for the after show. And this will be available on demand for those of your colleagues that were not able to make it but want to experience it. You can send them to Local 4's clickondetroit.com as well as Michigan Chronicle's website. This has been great. The work that you four are doing within your organizations is phenomenal, and there's a reason that Hiram and his team chose you among a long list of others that they could have selected. In large part, it's not just because of the success in your businesses, it's because of your commitment to the city of Detroit and Detroiters. And so as a Detroiter who has a business here and lives here, I personally thank you. And I think we all thank you for the work that you're doing in the city. And thank you all for being here today.
Welcome back, everybody, here on Local 4 Plus and the Michigan Chronicle. You're watching the streaming post-game coverage of Pancakes and Politics. Hiram Jackson with us. And
yes, sir.
Talk to me about this one. It always feels like when you have one of these, it's almost like the morale pops to the top of the city.
Yeah, we've been doing this for 20 years. Yeah. It's hard to believe. It's a great way to start spring. Mm-hmm. I love Pancakes and Politics because I know that spring is right around the corner. Yeah. But seriously, we had some great guests today. We really wanted to keep the conversation strong about workforce development and healthcare, and have these panelists talk about the growth of our region. And I can't think of four better people to do that. This has been a tradition of powerful people having powerful conversations, and I think that was continued today.
It really kind of weaved into a lot of things that go with that, too. You're talking about attracting talent, retaining talent. A lot of that starts with schools and also healthcare.
Yes.
And then also touching on who's running for mayor. I mean, we have that race coming up later this year, and all of this, of course, touches on the city and where that's going.
Yeah, you know, today's panel, you had 4 executives that with revenues of over $57 billion a year, well over 60,000 employees. And so we wanted to have panelists that could really touch those different areas: education, the future of the mayor's race, the governor's race, the Senate race. They have a lot of investment in this city there, and they're concerned about where we're going.
Yeah, after 20 years, now that the movers and shakers haven't been here the whole time, but you look around, does it make you feel good to see the sitting senator, Slotkin's here, Reverend Anthony, candidates for mayor? People know they need to be here.
Yeah, you know, Rick DeVore, the former president of PNC of Michigan, used to call Pancakes and Politics the cross-section of Main Street and Main Street. And what he meant by that is that, you know, we're having everyday conversations that people have with powerful people. And so powerful people want to hear from other powerful people. When the lawmakers come, I'm always pleased about that, because it says to us that our work is being appreciated and that we have the right people in the room. So, and it's been like that, Jason, for 20 years. The movers and the shakers sit in the audience. Typically, you go to an event, the dais has some really powerful people. The audience are people like me, just regular folks. But here at Pancakes and Politics, we do a really good job at attracting politicians, entrepreneurs, business folks, community leaders, clergy. And I think that it empowers us to have a very in-depth conversation about these big public policy issues.
Good, passionate questions, too, from the audience.
Yes.
But you think about, too, by the way, when Rick said that, was that after one drink or was that a few drinks? Or
It was 7:30 in the morning, so it's coffee.
I like that story you started off with today.
Yeah.
So when you finish up like this, I just look around the room. It just feels like you have a ton of energy to be able to carry this forward, and that's important for a city. Like we touched on the election, we're at, I don't say a pivotal point, but I mean, moving into another administration. When you look at the last two, quite different. It is very important.
No, I think we are at a pivotal point. I think Mayor Duggan has done a wonderful job at being the steward of our city. But we have a lot of unanswered questions, you know, a lot of pension obligation questions. Mayor Duggan was able to use a lot of the COVID money to do a lot of the work that he did. But he did a great job at keeping the city together. The next mayor will have some additional challenges on top of the ones that Mayor Duggan didn't have time to fix. So these conversations are really important in helping us identify what the most important questions are. But we all have some work to do, all of us in the region. Those of us who are in Detroit, we have to elect a new mayor. The next year, we got to elect a new governor. So there's going to be a lot of change coming up in the near future in the state of Michigan.
Real quickly, when Dennis asked that question, what qualities does the next mayor need? We heard a few different terms, collaboration. What stuck out to you, and what would your qualities be for that mayor?
Well, I liked Gary Torgo's comment about humility. I really believe that the next mayor has to understand what's happening in the neighborhoods as well as what's happening downtown, and be able to speak to both of those communities and understand the challenges that are going on. You know, Detroit, we still have 40% of our children in poverty, 40%. As you heard today, Michigan ranks in the bottom 10 in education. So I think the next mayor is really going to have to study those issues and really gather the corporate community and other elected officials to be able to solve some of those problems. I think they're going to have to be really savvy financially. You know, Detroit is a big, complex city, and we're going to have some need for financing, you know. Understanding affordable housing. I heard one candidate say that they want to build 10,000 new affordable housing units. That's very ambitious. Mayor Duggan was only able to do 8,500, and I thought he did a good job. So really understanding the issues, understanding how government works, being able to bring the corporate community and the neighborhoods together. Sounds like Jesus Christ to me.
Well, I don't know if he's running. I'll have to check and see if he's gotten the signatures.
Right, absolutely.
Great to see you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
I know
Jason.
you got some more hands to shake.
Absolutely.
I'll let you go.
Yep.
We're coming right back with more of the post-game Pancakes and Politics. Back here on Local 4 Plus and the MichiganChronicle.com, the post-game for Pancakes and Politics, joined by our sitting senator, Senator Alyssa Slotkin. Great to see you again.
Great to see you.
Nice. What did you think of the conversation today?
I thought it was great. I mean, actually, what I found really amazing about it was, and it's a bunch of leaders, and we know we have a lot of policy issues, a lot of political issues, but they were describing important leadership choices in their own life. And I think at a moment where the country is really looking for leadership, hearing from leaders who have had to make tough choices and how they've gone through that process, for me, was just refreshing.
Yeah, you just got back from several weeks just getting going, getting your feet wet in Washington, and boy, a lot to kind of take in. What's it been like? How do you find yourself, kind of this tails into the State of the Union as well, giving the rebuttal, but how as a member of the Democratic Party, do you push back on the things you feel need to be pushed back against?
Well, look, I mean, I'm a Democrat who happened to be elected on the same ballot with Donald Trump, right? Michigan's a swing state. We all know that. And so every day when I'm making decisions, I have to decide, what are the things I have to compromise on and what are the things I should never compromise on. And so all day long, I'm going to look for partners across the aisle on veterans issues or broadband internet or a whole host of things where they should be bipartisan, right? But on my values, on the things that I think are core to who we are as an American people, I'm going to fight, right? And so that's the decision making every single day that I've been doing for the past 10 weeks.
A few weeks ago on Flashpoint, we talked about the Doge cuts that were happening. Since then, we've seen so many more layoffs, so many more cuts, and now we're starting to see a lot of those effects in Michigan. And we talked about, and we came up today a little bit, government oversight of any business is always healthy. But we've talked a little bit about education, Department of Education cuts, the programs that it'll affect. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? How it's going to affect Michigan?
Well, actually, it's a great question. Superintendents of our K through 12 schools, right? They were coming to us and saying, hey, we keep hearing about funding cuts. We keep hearing about changes in the, curriculum guidance. The Department of Education is being cut in half. How are we supposed to deal with this? And I think, there's lots of different opinions about how you trim fat and how you cut waste. I think we can all agree the kids are what matters, and we need more investment in our education, not less. So I think the thing I'm very concerned about is we've seen my colleagues on the other side of the aisle threaten federal funding that comes in for our most underserved schools. We've had real threats to our what's called IDEA funding, so funding for our kids with disabilities.
Right.
So we just have to be ruthless in our priorities. It doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican. Keep kids at the center of the mission, and let's not cut off services and support to our kids.
When they talk about the funding, Michigan will just get it directly and they can handle it in other states. Is it as easy as that? Here's your pot of money, everything's going to be the same, you're just in charge of it? Or like you said, those special education programs, those kids that are in the most vulnerable districts and the most vulnerable programs, are those in danger even if the state still gets all the money it's going to get?
Well, that's the open question, is whether the state still gets that chunk of money from the federal level.
So that could get cut as well.
Absolutely.
Along with employees.
Absolutely. Look, I think everyone, even a casual observer, has seen, the attempts to cut. The president has been very open that he's looking for $6 trillion in the couch cushions. That's a lot of money, and you got to cut a lot of things in order to find those that money. So Title I funding, which goes to our low-income schools, and IDEA funding, which is for kids with disabilities, learning disabilities, all kinds of things, are absolutely at risk. And so that's why the superintendents are saying, hey, I can't make my budget work if this is going to be cut to the state. So where are we and how do we fight back?
Several races open here in Michigan. The nearest, obviously, the mayor race for Detroit. Today we talked a little bit about it, the qualities that would be best. We heard from some of the people here. When you look at that, what are the qualities you think are going to be best, and is your relationship going to be with whoever wins this race?
Well, look, there's It's the biggest city in our state, absolutely critical role. And it gives me a lot of hope when I think about where we've come in 12 years in Detroit. I mean, I brag about it when I'm in Washington. We have done something amazing here, and so we need a mayor who's going to continue that positive progress. Deal with some of the enduring issues we still have. We all know that. Yeah. But we are on a path, and that path is upward. So we want a mayor, whoever it is, who's going to take that next generation forward. And the mayor here already is a big partner at the federal level, right? Federal money comes into the city a lot. So we got to be sort of partners in that. And so whoever wins, I'm going to be hugging them close and making sure that we're tag teaming, because what we've done here is historic and we need to continue that rise.
Yeah, I think everybody in this room would certainly agree. Senator, thanks so much.
Of course.
Appreciate you coming
Good to
by.
see you.
You too. Coming right back. More Pancakes and Politics, the post-game show right after this. In mid-conversation here on Local 4 Plus and the MichiganChronicle.com. Pancakes and Politics, kind of the wrap-up show. Gary Torgo joining us from Huntington Bank, the chairman of the board. What were your takeaways from the conversation today?
I thought it was very informative. I thought it was very honest. I think we're all, no matter what industry we're from, we're all intersecting with the same issues. We got an important future ahead of us in Detroit. We're electing new political leadership. We've got to get behind whoever ends up in that position, and we got to make sure that we give them the support we're always there for. And I think you listen to, healthcare, financial industry, construction, we're all dealing with the same issues. Yeah. And I think it's critical that we join together and we work together.
Hiram liked your comment on what quality makes a good mayor in Detroit: humility. Expand on that a little bit for me, because, it's one of those jobs, obviously, very prominent, one of the most prominent mayoral jobs in the country, but in your mind, it's important to kind of keep your feet on the ground.
Yeah. If a elected official understands that he or she cannot do it alone, that they are not the center of attention all the time, they've got to bring everybody together, they've got to encourage the diversity, and they remain humble, you're going to get a really good leader. The less humble they are, the less ability they have to really look into the problems of the community that they're leading. And so we need people who understand they're elected to support the people, to serve the people, and we're not there to serve them.
Yeah, because the city, while lots of strides, Midtown, downtown, those areas, a lot of people bring up the fact that, hey, the neighborhoods still have a lot of work to do.
Neighborhoods are critical, in the strategic neighborhood effort that Mayor Duggan did. So we had the privilege of leading the corporate side of that. We put money into Grandmont Rosedale, into Cody Rouge, and we have learned that it is truly a partnership. We are learning the community. We have made friends throughout those communities. We're encouraging the things that are important to them. Neighborhoods are vital. If the neighborhoods succeed and the school district succeeds, everything else comes along.
Yeah, I think Sylvester made the point. We got to meet them where they are.
Yes.
Throughout. At an event like this, I had mentioned to Hiram as well, it just feels like the energy level for everyone in this room, ipso facto, the city kind of hits a nice little high spot as we head into spring and into the summer season.
Yeah, I think we got to be very optimistic. I think we got to stop focusing on looking at every hour of the news and saying that's good, that's bad. Yeah. We got to look at the totality, the community. Somebody called me yesterday that they wonder if the interest rates are going up. So just be patient. Every single day there's another opportunity. You need a home mortgage. There are banks like ours that are giving down payment assistance. Yeah. We want to make sure that we remain with an equilibrium, we remain healthy together, and don't always focus on all the day-to-day activity that we can't control anyways.
It was nice to hear a lot of you talk about that. I think Bob brought it up as well, but it feels too often we are being used to monetize anger. A lot of them, here's what you need to be angry about today, and if you can avoid a lot of that, it's not just positive for you but your community.
Yeah, no question. I think the key word today is civility. We need to treat each other nicely. We need to help each other. It doesn't really matter what side of the aisle you're on. We're all fighting for the same things. That question about education, lifting up our state. You're never going to get to a top 10 state if the students are left behind.
I couldn't agree with you more there. Gary, thanks so much.
It was a pleasure.
It's great to see you.
Thanks a lot.
And really appreciated your comments this morning, too.
Thank you. Thank you
Part
so
of the
much.
discussion. More to come here on Pancakes and Politics. Stay with us. We saved the best for last. Demetrius Hutcherson from First Independence Bank, president there. Great to see you. What did you think of the conversation today?
I thought it was a really great conversation. They touched on a lot of topics. Obviously, healthcare is important to a lot of folks in our community. Workforce development, education is extremely critical. The things that they talked about related to workforce development and education are really aligned with First Independence Bank's vision to be a beacon to the community. We put a lot of time and effort into financial literacy, what we call financial wellness, educating folks. We have partnerships with organizations that, like Operation Hope, where we have a representative that helps individuals with financial well-being coaches to help position them for home ownership. And we actually have team members that perform financial wellness workshops and seminars.
That's so important, too, because you don't often hear about that anymore because we assume it happens in school, and far too often it doesn't happen to a level that's good enough. And now sometimes we need to play catch-up to make sure people are on the right track.
I agree totally. I consider myself a lifelong learner, and I think financial wellness or financial literacy is something that can be useful to young people as well as individuals at different stations in their life where they're trying to rebuild or expand on some of the things that they currently have. So they touched on some great topics, and obviously they talked about the upcoming mayoral race, which will be quite interesting, and we will be watching and waiting to see how it all fares out.
Of those qualities they talked about in a mayor, what makes a good mayor? What does the next mayor need? Which ones stuck out to you, or do you have one that you wanted to throw in there of your own that you think is most important?
Sure. A couple of points. Being able to inspire people to follow you and lead, having empathy, and Sylvester Hester talked about it, work ethic.
Yeah.
Work ethic is truly aligned to the city of Detroit. Resilience, grit, all the things that we as Detroiters really personify.
With that football team, the way they play, you can't not have a work ethic anymore in this town.
I totally agree.
Right? Come on.
Yes, indeed.
When you look around the room, too, on a day like this, what does it say about the city that, and not that the movers and shakers haven't been here for all 20 years of Pancakes and Politics, but sitting Senator Alyssa Slotkin's here, the mayoral candidates are here, Reverend Anthony, but the people that, are fully invested here want to come, and not just, you don't see those folks on stage, they're listening.
The thing is that these folks show up because they care about our community. They show up because they want to make sure that the topics that are being discussed are topics that are important to the community and are going to really be topics that once we start looking at mayoral candidates, try to see if those are things that are aligned with their campaigns and what their values are. And with some of the politics and things that are going on, the leaders have to stay in tune and just be here to be a voice for the folks in this community.
Yeah. Demetrius Hutcherson, President, First Independence Bank. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for your time.
See, we saved the best for last. There's no pressure following Gary, I'm telling you. There's no pressure.
I felt it.
Everybody else, thanks for watching here on Local 4 Plus and themichiganchronicle.com. Your next Pancakes Politics, we'll do it again next month. We'll see you then.